Amen. And thank you to Damon and Thane for sharing your time and wisdom and being willing to be recorded and present yourselves in front of all of us. Good morning, I'm Kirk Freeman. I'm the other half of the Ministerial internship team, and I'm so grateful to have had the opportunity to work with Mathew and the rest of the worship team to plan this service. I've also noticed that over the last few weeks that anytime I speak on Zoom with the words on my screen, I neglect and I lose the opportunity to see your faces. So this morning I'm going with the hard copy version, and I'm taking a cue from Reverend Rebecca to put your faces on gallery view and to see your eyes and to speak directly to you. I'd like to begin by sharing some memorable words written by Carolyn McDade. If you recognize them, I invite you to stay on mute, but speak along with me. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea. Move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. Isn't it difficult to hear those words without breaking into song? Kimberly French, a contributing editor to UU World, once claimed that McDade's Spirit of Life is our doxology, or perhaps our amazing grace. She also said that the hymn finds the common ground held by the humanists and theists, the pagans and the Christians, the Buddhists and the Jews among us. It has been my experience that this is generally true, whether it has been in conversation with other UUs who come from other spiritual traditions, or it has been my own understanding of this song as my theological views have changed. I've been wondering lately if this hymn's broad appeal comes from a deeply held shared sense that we are all called to pay attention to deeply listen to, something that stirs our hearts to compassion, leads us to work for justice, connects us to our ancestors, and points us toward liberation. While our individual understandings of the nature of this impulse may be different, I believe that we are all called by it, and that we must choose to pay attention to it. I think this impulse is what Abraham Lincoln named the better angels of our nature. It's what the biblical prophet Elijah experienced as the still, small voice. I see it in what Kant named the categorical imperative and also in what Freud named the superego. But whatever we call it, I see this notion embedded in our UU principles. I see it both in the fourth principle, our commitment to a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, and in the fifth principle, which specifically names that we honor the right of conscience. The funny thing about my conscience is that I have never been more confident that it exists as when I have realized that I've been acting counter to it. It's in those moments that I realize I am being called into a new understanding, a new way of seeing, a new way of being. Perhaps you've had one of those experiences. Perhaps you have felt it as an internal voice that calls you to reconcile your words with your actions, your behaviors with your beliefs. Or perhaps your conscience has been activated through an encounter with someone who has a different perspective than you, and who has invited you, or even demanded, that you see the world through their eyes and shaped by their experiences. These are the voices and the people that capture our attention and engage our conscience by drawing out the failures of the present moment and pointing to another way of being. These are the voices and the people that many traditions name prophets. Now, these prophetic encounters are rarely comfortable. When my conscience is activated and makes itself known, it almost never feels good. but it does demand my attention and my response. Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, one of the greatest theologians of the 20th century, wrote that above all, the prophets remind us of the moral state of a people. Few are guilty, but all are responsible. I don't know about you, but that notion that few are guilty, but all are responsible, that makes me a little uncomfortable. But it also is how I know in my bones that it is true. Rabbi Heschel goes on, the purpose of prophecy is to conquer callousness, to change the inner person, as well as to revolutionize history. To conquer callousness, to change the inner person, to revolutionize history. Or maybe we'd put it another way. Maybe the purpose of prophecy is to sing in the heart all the stirrings of compassion, to move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. My friends, prophets and prophecy are not limited to the past. And in our tradition, we affirm the priesthood and prophethood of all believers. For example, let's think back to the voices of our youth that we just heard a few moments ago. Didn't Damon remind us that we may not hold the guilt for global environmental devastation, but that we are all responsible for it, and therefore we are called to address it? Didn't Thane call on all of us to spend more time understanding another person's perspective? I know as a consumer and as a parent, I felt some discomfort hearing those words because they forced me to consider how my beliefs and behaviors are often out of sync. And that feeling of discomfort is how I know these two are onto something, that I'm learning something from them, that I'm being called to account by them. And ultimately, it is how I come to realize that they are telling me that change is possible. Let's also look beyond the UUCR community for a moment. I invite you to consider those people who are seen as modern prophets on the world stage. Perhaps you think of Reverend Dr. William Barber and Reverend Dr. Liz Theo-Harris, the spiritual leaders of the Modern Poor People's Campaign. Perhaps you think of Greta Thunberg, the incomparable global climate activist. Or perhaps you think of Shamika Parrish-Wright, Hannah Drake, and Chanel Helm, who are among the beating hearts of the movement for Black Lives in Louisville, Kentucky, and who are unrelenting in their demands for justice for Breonna Taylor and other victims of police violence. The prophetic words of any of these leaders may make us uncomfortable. They may make us wish we could turn away. They may make us wish we could go back to a time when we hadn't heard them in the first place. But you and I know that is not possible. You and I know that there is truth in their words and that they are calling us in to a deeper understanding and to participate in creating the world we say that we want. My friends, this morning I invite you to move towards that discomfort, to wrestle with those difficult things, and to listen deeply to your conscience. I encourage you to find opportunities to reconcile your beliefs and your behaviors, your words with your action. In particular, let us seek out opportunities to engage in the hard, uncomfortable, and absolutely necessary work of understanding and dismantling racism and white supremacy in ourselves and in our society. Let us seek opportunities to get in touch with our consciences, to conquer our own callousness, to change our inner selves, and to revolutionize history. Let us move forward together in this work. Let us participate in creating the world that we dream of. Blessed be, and amen.